Cool. I'm going to start recording. Let me give a quick 5 minute, mini TED talk, call it, and understand what you guys are thinking, where you guys are at. So just to give a brief, cohort 2 May, I was just going through this today. On week 5, we had started React. And I was thinking of starting React this week, but we did a poll where 55% or 50% said, let's practice before we proceed. And 37 said it's decent. So I'm just basically skipping one more week. But we should avoid this too much. The course will become really long, which I have no problems with. But, there is lack of motivation that comes if you're not quickly learning new things. So I would urge you to do a lot of practicing yourself. And if you think there are lack of assignments, let us know, even though I think there are decent amount of assignments that we push into the repository every week. But if you feel that's not the case, that's fine. Generally, what is expected is what we're going to do today. So the thing that we're going to do manually today, try to do the same yourself during the week so that, existing topics you get comfortable with yourself. That said, if one topic feels very jarring, for example, let's say MongoDB was like, nahi, Harkirat, we can't go understand this much without practicing, then feel free to, let us know. But let's try, we don't become twice as long as cohort 2. If cohort 2 was 6, 7, I don't remember, 8 months, we don't want to do this for 1.5 years, right? So let's amp up the pace a little bit. Anyways, after React, hopefully, React is the only big bump that will come. Uske baad React to Next is easy. I don't see any immediate bumps after that. If you practice really well in the MERN stack itself, that includes, MongoDB as the database, that's fine. And, Express, React and Node.js. If you create 5-6 kiddo projects as well, as long as you're writing a lot of code yourself, the journey after that becomes easy. We are going to create one such project today, but we will not be worrying about the R. We'll not be worrying about React. We will write the front end in very basic, DOM manipulation like we have until now, HTML, CSS and JavaScript. But everything else we'll try to, practice a lot. I would urge you to write the code. It'll basically be like these are the steps we have to follow. Try to follow the steps on your side. We did this in cohort 2 in the Paytm class. It was good feedback. Everyone understood what their level is at. You were expected to know something, but if you weren't able to know that, that means you have some backlog to catch up. So that is going to be the goal for today's class specifically. This is what we're building. We're building a course selling website. You can make this very complex. For example, if you have ever looked at harkira.classics.co.in, there is actually an admin dashboard of it. If you ever go here, there's actually an admin dashboard where teachers go and upload content, add courses, remove courses, change the price of courses, things like these. So there are two parts to building a course selling application. You can make it fairly complex. For example, our CMS is fairly complex. If I show you the admin dashboard of this, it lets you do thousands of things because this CMS works with a lot of educators. Every educator has its own set of use case. So even a course selling application might feel very simple. What we're building also is not simple. I have, added a few features that we don't need. We didn't have in cohort 1, but I've added here to make it a little more complex. But let me know if it gets too complex as well. These are the steps to follow. I would hope you guys code. I code after, let's say, 5 minutes. For 5 minutes, you code, I just answer any doubts. And then after 5 minutes, I will code as well. All of this we have done. There is nothing new here other than there are 2 extra things I've added. For example, this point right here, if you add routing to Express yourself or, we'll learn as well today, that is great. And if you know what .env is, or if you learn this today, these are the 2 new things you will learn and we haven't done before. You can also build the application without using this and without using this. These are just brownie points. But the goal is we also understand 2 new things in the process. Cool. I think we should be able to do, hopefully until this point, generating the schema today. If all goes well, we should be able to complete the backend. Front end we can do tomorrow. Also do it in an offline video. I'm fine either way. We probably will do tomorrow. Let's build it end to end. Let's try to build a mildly beautiful looking UI. Cruxy backend, by which I mean, it has all the right features. There is no vulnerabilities. There is nothing obvious we're missing. Go from there. Okay, ji. 8:07. Let's start. This is how, even Super 30 is going to be. The people that we're getting on site, we're just giving them projects like these. Do it yourself. I think you will, unless you're a complete beginner, then you're going to get overwhelmed here. But if you have done all the classes until this point, then this shouldn't be too difficult. You will of course have to push a little bit in the middle. Everything else should be simple. If you are super advanced, then I don't know what you will do in this class. If you already know React, Mern, you've built a lot of projects, then what can you do? You can skip this week as well, and come back next week. Or if you want to build this, if you really want to do something, then if you're very free right now, build the same thing, but build a very fancy UI. Use v0.dev or whatever. Create Figma designs for it. Have an end-to-end application ready basically in the next 2 days. Show it to me after 2 days. I made this course selling application. I would love to see. These are very minimal features as well. You can add more features. This is like the very basic bare minimum. Without any further ado, let's kick things off. Please initialize a fresh repository locally. Create a fresh folder locally in your project. I'm going to write all of my code here only. But you can create a fresh folder in your machine. mkdir week 9 Coursera or whatever you want to call it. You can call your app whatever you want. Let's say you call it Coursera. So create a few new folder in your machine. Go into that folder in your machine and open that folder in Visual Studio Code. Open this folder in Visual Studio Code. You have an empty folder opened here. Hoping that is straightforward. Take 10 seconds. Then we will start to create our projects. If you have any questions related to the class, if you are stuck at any point, I'm looking at Q&A. How to store images in Mongo, like course images? That is a great question. And the answer is you don't store images in Mongo. You never store images in a database. You store images someplace else, specifically this thing called object stores. You store the URL of the image in the database. So for today, we will just expect the user to give us a URL. It is a great feature to add. There's a video I have on YouTube creating full SaaS application in 6 hours. I have covered this over there if you want to understand how image uploads work on an object store. Today we don't have to do that. To recap, we are building this. These are all the steps. These are also present on cohort 3. So github.com/100x steps cohort 3/week-8 course selling project. So you can look at all of these steps locally, or if you want to, look at the screen, I have them on the screen as well. Problem to creating database. What's the problem in creating a database? We discussed this last week, right? MongoDB, you can easily create one, get one for free. Should I follow along if beginner? You should. Please follow along if beginner. This is for beginner. This is like the whole point of this is if you are a beginner, you do it yourself. And advanced people, this is like a 5-minute thing to build. Cool. I don't see any specific questions. So someone asked why backend first. You should always build the backend first. You don't know, any application that you're building, start with the most complex thing. If you're building ChatGPT, you will first build the models, then build the backend, then build the front end. How do you initialize an empty JavaScript project? npm init-y. As soon as I do that, it creates one for me. It also has a very nice description that it created by default. It picked all of this description from readme.md for me and put it over here. For you, it should be empty. Doesn't matter. What is the command I ran? npm init-y to initialize a package.json, this thing right here. After this is done, what is the next step? You initialize a index.js file. This will be our entry point file. Whenever you start your application, the way you will start it is you will run node index.js. So the first goal today is to create a very basic structure. We will create it in index.js. Eventually, of course, we will introduce more files. If you remember in the database class, we did Mongo, like a database.javascript file and middleware.js file. So we will introduce more files. For now, index.js is good enough. Add express JSON web token as dependency. There should actually be a third dependency here called mongoose, if you remember, which lets us connect to the database. So for now, I can think of only 3 dependencies. This might increase in the future. We will see. So what are the commands to run? npm install express, mongoose, and JSON web token. These are the 3 external dependencies that you need for a basic full stack app. And we will see if we need more eventually. Can you create the 4th point? Can you try to write the skeleton for a user to log in, a user to sign up, and a user to purchase a course? You don't have to create any fancy, logic. Just create route handlers for now. Hopefully we understand what are route handlers. create 3 route handlers, maybe 4. A place where user comes and logs in, a place where user comes and signs up, purchases a course, sees the purchased courses, and sees all courses. 5 endpoints we need for the user. Here, actually, I would like to introduce routing. This very complex point that I've written over here, let me introduce that because it will make your life a little easier. If we don't use routing, then we will have a very big index.js file. So let me show you both the approaches, one with routing, one without routing, and then we will see which approach is slightly cleaner. So try it out yourself, with or without routing, doesn't matter. Take 2 minutes, maybe 3 minutes, and then I will code also. I will show you both the approaches. One approach is slightly better. I will keep pushing the code from time to time. So if you feel like you're lost, if you're behind, you can always, see the reference from GitHub. All right. The current code, let me push to GitHub until then. So for those of you who weren't able to code step 1 and step 2, you can always go to GitHub, pull the changes. I've pushed my current repository over here, pull this repository and run npm install. You will be at the same point that I am. Hopefully that's easy enough. Cool. 2 more minutes, then we will start. What do you have to do? In index.js, try to write a lot of code. Please disable AI. Try to write a lot of code yourself. Well, Kirat, I cannot. I have not learned it enough. What are we supposed to do? Express npm.js. We know Express is an npm module. I can always go here and see after you have installed Express, how do you create routes in Express? Keep going. Nothing I can find over here, Harkirat. So where can I find it? expressjs.com most probably. I can go to the official docs, click on getting started, hello world. Something is hopefully over here. It gives me the basic code to introduce one route, this route right here. We have to, of course, write 5 routes today. So can you just copy the whole code and then add the 5 routes, or even better, code it yourself? That's the easiest path to create a simple Express application locally. Every Express application starts the same, looks the same, and entry point you will always find in Express at the top. Cool. Let me paste this in chat if you want to follow along from here. One more minute, then I will code it as well. This is the step that we're on. All right. I will do a poll after this if you feel I'm going really fast. But what do you have to do? Const express equal to require express, the external dependency. Const app equal to express, create an instance of an express HTTP server. At the end, you will have app.listen on some port, let's say 3000. And here is where you could introduce 5 routes. app.post/user/signup. Something like this. Hopefully this is not jarring and you understand what is happening here. I will do a poll very soon. First endpoint is done. Can you do the second endpoint similarly? Sign in. What is the third endpoint? For the user to get all the current courses. So get/user/courses, or maybe get/courses is a good route for it. Then an endpoint where user gets their own purchased courses. क्या मेरे purchased courses कहाँ हैं? यहाँ पे all the courses. This endpoint we would hit when you go to harkirat.classix.co.in and see all the current courses. But this endpoint you will see, this one will give you all the current courses, and the one that I'm writing next, which is /user/courses, or maybe /user/purchases is a better endpoint, because this page pe I see all my courses. This page pe I see all my purchases. Okay, what all courses have I purchased? This one, this one, this one, and this one. These are the 4 courses that I have purchased. So I need 2 different endpoints. One that gives me all the current courses, unka price kya tha, everything, their title, their image. This gives me all my purchases, what all courses I have purchased. And lastly, this should also be a get. And 5th endpoint was login is done, sign up is done, purchase a course. An endpoint that the user will hit when they want to purchase a course. app.post/user/purchase, let's say. When a user wants to purchase a course, then this is the endpoint that they will hit. A better endpoint probably here is /course/purchase. So either is fine. You can either have this as /user/purchase. Here user wants to purchase a course, or /course/purchase. A user is willing to. Depends on you, right? Depends on the application developer. ये तुम पे है कि how you want your routes to look like. As long as the front end is calling the same routes, you can put whatever over here. But of course, put something meaningful. So the meaningful thing that we've put here is /course/purchase. Now, in the real world, you would expect the user to pay you money. Is that true? When you go over here and go to any course, do you have to buy it? Yes. After you buy it, does the purchase happen? But today, are we doing that? No. No payment acceptance today, because that is a whole different challenge that involves something like Razorpay to do a bunch of things. So today we will just expose an endpoint. User can hit that endpoint, and we will say your course has been purchased. Here, this is a vulnerability. Yes, it is a vulnerability. In the real world, in actuality, you would of course accept payments, but that is a hard problem we're not getting into. So we have just exposed the 5th endpoint. Do we understand these 5 endpoints? Why are they relevant for a user? And a user that comes to the website, a user over here, I am a user. I am not an admin yet. I also have an admin account. If I log out and log in as the admin account, I can create a course over here. I can change the price of a course, all those things. But currently I'm logged in as a user, which is why, these are the endpoints that I will hit. Do we understand this? Let me push this as well. Step 2, add skeleton routes for user. Why do I say skeleton routes? Because kuch ho nahi raha hai abhi. They're just bare minimum skeletons. We haven't written any logic in here. I've pushed the code. Meanwhile, the poll is happening. All right. 90%. 10% have a lot of catching up to do. If you are in the 10%, I will answer your questions next. But for the 90%, are you ready for some challenge and self-learning? I think the best way to learn anything is to learn it yourself. So can you guys figure out what is routing in Express? Why would it make our lives a little bit easier over here? And how can I structure my route? I repeat, for the next 2 minutes, try to Google routing in Express, the Express router, and how will it help you structure your application a little better. And after 2 minutes, I will do the same. Let me look at Q&A until then. This is something I haven't discussed in classes yet. So let's see how many of you are able to figure it out yourself. There are two ways to build a full stack application, where we serve the backend with the front end on the same Express server, where we host the front end somewhere else and backend somewhere else. That is true. What are the advantages and disadvantages of doing these? I mean, Next.js. अब ये कौन सा framework आ गया भाई? I'm assuming you mean Next.js allows you to build both front end and backend in one. Why don't we use Express to serve the static React build? Great question. That is an amazing question. The answer is that you can do that. There is no downside of doing that. But since you know what you're serving in React is static, it doesn't change. Then it is cheaper to host all of that on a CDN, a content delivery network, compared to a VM, a virtual machine. Your backend will be hosted on a virtual machine. If all of your users are asking for HTML pages, how much bandwidth will be consumed on that EC2 machine? That EC2 machine will have to spend a lot of time not computing, but serving. And that is not a job of a VM. A VM should be computing a lot, serving less. If you in the future buy a AWS machine, this AWS machine should simply be returning you JSON data. This is the user information. But if you start returning HTML, CSS, JS files from here, then it can begin to get choked. And if front end is down, back end will go down. If back end is down, front end will go down. Which is why it is a good idea, if you have something like React as your stack, host it separately on a CDN and the backend on a VM. There are downsides to this also, but this is something you should do if you are using the React plus Node.js stack. If you are using Next.js, there are a lot of complications, tons of different things that change when you move to Next.js and have something called server-side rendering. Then you cannot use a CDN. But if you're statically serving files, you're good. All right. Cool. If you have any problems joining Discord, just mail 100xdevs@gmail.com. They'll help you out. Alrighty. Were you able to figure out routing? This is how I would have figured out. Harkirat has given me some code and he said add routing in it, search for routing in Express. I would have searched routing in Express. Let's see. You may not be able to reach the right answer, but let's see. Routing refers to how an application responds to client requests. For an introduction, see basic routing. And this might have been very hard for you to figure out. I don't see an example over here that explains it very well, but let's see. There you go. This is what I was hoping you would get at. Now I'm sure if you are a beginner and so much content is thrown at you, of course you will not be able to figure it out. So don't feel bad if you weren't able to figure it out. I wouldn't have been able to either. I know what I was looking for, so I reached the right place. Let me quickly introduce routing to you, something new that we are learning today. What is the ugly thing of this specific, code that we've written? Okay, everything is in a single file. You have so many things in a single file, which will, wouldn't it be nice if all of these 3 endpoints that start with /user can go to a separate file called user.js. And all of these 3 endpoints that start with, let's say I'll change this endpoint to be /course/bulk or /course/preview. Okay, show me all the courses, preview them to me. I haven't bought them yet. I just want to see them on the landing page. So both of these endpoints that start with /course, all of their logic I put in course.js. And in the future, we will have a third file called admin.js where we will have all the admin routes. Who is an admin? Someone who can create a course on the website. So how can you do that? This is where routing in React comes into the picture. You can do it using some ugly ways also. What would the ugly way be? Harkirat told that all these 3 endpoints need to go to user.js. So ugly ways, you do something like this. You put all 3 here. You export a function from here. User routes create, which takes app as an input. And you call this function in the other place. This works as well. You define a function over here called create user routes. You export this function from here, module.exports equal to create user routes. And then you import this function in the main file. Okay, const this thing equal to require dot slash course or whatever dot slash user. Then you simply call this. You simply यहाँ पे rather than writing all three of those, you simply call this function, and that is how you do structuring. Harkirat, I was able to structure my data better. Is this approach right? It is. It will still work, but there is a better way to do the same thing. This approach, hopefully you understand, okay, rather than having all of my three routes over here, rather than having these three routes directly over here, I just called a function over here, which under the hood does the same thing. What is this function doing? If I open this function, under the hood it is calling app.post, app.post, app.get. So as long as I'm passing the right app instance over here, as long as I am passing the right app instance, same hi to cheez ho rahi hai. It is happening in this file or a separate file. So this is one great way to structure your application. Totally fine. Baki ke dono endpoints I will put in the other file. I will take the other two endpoints, remove them from here, go to course.js, function create course routes, take app as an input, and paste all the data over here. This is another ugly way to do routing, but it works. Something like this. Define the function where routing is happening or where the actual logic is happening. In index.js, require the other file from here. And just call this over here. Does this work? It does work. Has our index.js become clean? It has. This was the goal all along, right? Can it not shove all the endpoints over here, all the route handlers over here, structure them a little bit. Course.js file, user.js file. Ideally, you should have a routes folder, a folder called routes, जिसके अंदर you should have course.js file. Move it and change the imports. The import changed over here thanks to Visual Studio Code. User, put it in routes. Move, change the imports. Imports changed over here. This is the ideal way. How well is your application structured? If a new developer comes, they don't get overwhelmed with 20 routes over here. They see that user routes are defined here, course routes are defined here. Do we understand an ugly way to do routing? If we do, then I'll take you through a slightly better way to do routing. But let's see if we understand this. We understand this 91%, down to 89% now. Decentish, I will proceed. A better way to do routing is कि Express ना gives you some very nice constructs. देखो ये ठीक है, there is nothing wrong in this. But what if I could do something like this? कि यार app.use, use ही होता है ना? Router.use, हाँ, app.use /user router and app.use /course router. What if I could do something like this? This is also fine, nothing wrong here. But now the new developer that is joining my team, he can see that all the routes that start with /user are getting handled by this user router. What is this user router? We will get to very soon. But the new developer that joins your team can now, this looks slightly better. The new developer understands Express. He understands that this person has structured the application in a way that all the routes that start with /user get handled by this guy, that start with /course get handled by this guy. This is not clearly telling me that. Looking at this, I cannot tell that. Okay, all the routes that are starting with /user go here. Harkirat, what is the benefit of this? A very big benefit of this is that most backends are written this way. When you usually write a backend, you write something like this: /API/v1/user /API/v1/course. You have version 1 routes of your backend. Then, in the future, you might have version 2 routes of your backend. So The benefit that this router approach provides you is कि यार initial route यहाँ mention कर दो, mention the initial route over here so that जो user router है, when you go to routes/user.js, here you don't have to mention /user 3 times. This becomes redundant. You can remove /user from here, and from here. वो पहले ही लग गया. The /user, the initial thing, got added over here. Any request that comes to /user/anything will go to the user router. And here I don't have to re-mention /user. वो आ गया. /user/signup will be handled by this guy. /user/signin will be handled by this guy. So on and so forth. Of course, this code needs to change a bit. I shouldn't be exporting a function now. I should be exporting an express router. So this is the thing that I was saying. Can you figure out how to create routers? Can you figure out how to create routing in Express? The thing that was expected was कि जो Express library है, until now we have done const express equal to require express. The Express library provides you something called a router. Const router equal to express.router. You can write it like this. Or you can either write the code like this, or you can write it like this. Const router equal to require express. Both these two things, these two lines of code and this line of code, both do the same thing. यहाँ पे you are first getting an express object. This object has a key called router that you get over here. यहाँ पे you simply say const router equal to express. You destructure router directly over here. Both of the syntax are fine. First you import this router variable. Then you say okay, const, let's say user router equal to router. This router variable is not a class but a function. I know it looks a little weird. Okay, Harkirat, it starts with a capital letter. It does. But still it is a function only. When I hovered over this and went over here, it was a function. So I called the function. And rather than doing app.post, I don't have access to app anymore. We will not be passing app from here to here anymore. I will simply do user router, this thing, .post/signup, .post/signin, .get/purchases. These are the three endpoints that I will create now. And what will I export from this file? The thing that I will export from this file would be this user router. So I've changed a lot of things here. We are not exporting a function anymore. What are we exporting? We are first creating an instance of this router. It isn't a class. So this isn't an instance of a router class. This is just a function. I call this function. It returns a router to me. What is a router? As the name suggests, जो request आ रही है, it will route it to the right place. If a request comes in index.js on /user/anything, it gets routed to this user router. So what is this user router? It is a place that will handle incoming requests. And specifically the way we are writing it, any request that is coming to /user/anything will be handled by this router. This router I have defined over here. I am exporting at the end of the file and I'm going to import over here. Const user router equal to require ./user. And then this is how I've, used the user router. Let me push this code and can you try to do the other one? Can you try to finish the course router? If you weren't able to follow along with me, which I'm sure you weren't because I went a little fast. Let me push this code. Step 3, added routers. I have pushed this code, so you can fresh clone the repository, or if you understand git pull by now, you can pull my changes on your side as well. Given this specific ./route/user is not exporting this function anymore. No. It is exporting a router. This is how we use the router. app.use/user user router. What is the benefit of this? Benefit is कि कोई भी request जो slash user पे आ रही है ना will go over here. Bigger benefit is all the prefixes can be mentioned over here. Slash API slash v1 slash user. All requests that are coming to slash API slash v1 slash course, please go over here. What is the benefit? Whenever you want to change to v2, you simply change it in two places. You don't have to go into individual routes and यहाँ पे भी change slash API slash v2. No, all the structuring, all the prefixing of your backend routes happens over here. Okay, all my v1 routes currently are handled by these guys. In the future, you might introduce v2 routes. Let's say you have a very fancy team that you've hired. They are writing some very nice code. So this will keep running on production. You will also introduce the v2 routes, which will be handled by, let's say, user v2 router and course v2 router. And the new team that has joined, that is working on v2 of your application, they will keep writing the code over here. Until then, this will keep running in production. So, this is the benefit of routing. Okay, all your routes are very clearly mentioned at the top level file rather than going down with this other approach of creating functions. So can we build it for the other one? Can we build the course router as well? Let me comment the first one. Let me move this as well. Go to the course.js file. And what are we supposed to do over here? Okay, no longer the function is needed. I am not going to export a function. I am going to create a router. Const router equal to require router. Const course router equal to router. And what do I have to do? Course router dot post anytime a post request comes. Rest.json dot get anytime a get request comes. Rest.json abhi ke liye basic skeleton code. And what am I exporting? The course router. What am I not exporting? The function that we had. This is how I would change the course.js file. What would I do next? I would import this course router in index.js. I'll wait for like 10-15 seconds if anyone was following along. As you saw, what did I do? Imported the router at the top, created a fresh router, called router.post, router.get, exported the router over here, went back to index.js. What did I do over here? Rather than importing a function, I imported the course router. And I said, anytime a request comes to slash API slash v1 slash course, please get handled by the course router. Hopefully that works. Let's see. Let me run node index.js. And immediately I see an error. It says cannot find module router. Const router equal to require express. That's my bad. I had written const router equal to require router here. It should be express. Try that one more time. And seems like my backend server is running. How can I confirm? Let me send a get request to slash API slash v1 slash course. And if I go to the course router slash, I should remove these prefixes from here now. Hopefully that is clear why I removed them, because that prefix is already added in index.js. Jo prefix yahan pe aa gaya, if slash API slash v1 slash course is over here, I don't have to rewrite that prefix in here. I don't have to rewrite slash API slash v1 slash course slash purchase. No, any request that is coming to slash API slash v1 slash course slash purchase would be handled by this guy only. That is how routing works. Okay, jo bhi request yahan aa rahi hai, whatever request is coming here, please get handled here. And whatever it has after that, you need to mention here. After that, we have slash sign up slash sign in. Let me try it one more time. Node index.js. Let me send a request to, open the code on the left, open the browser on the right, localhost colon 3000 slash, what were the route here? API v1 course. Okay, that is the initial route. And what was the route after that? Preview. So slash preview over here. And does it say sign up endpoint? It does. Is that what was mentioned over here? Yes. This should ideally say, whatever. course preview endpoint, but you get the idea. Routing, this is how it works in Express. Let me push all of my code so you can try it locally as well. In case you weren't able to follow along, I will recap also everything I've done before we proceed. Try to write it yourself. We only have 3 files right now. We haven't yet complicated things at all. If anything, we have structured things better. We could have done everything in the same file. This is a very common dilemma that happens in programming. The thing that is happening, jo aata hai wohi kar lete hain na yaar. I know how to put 5 things here. Let me put 5 routes here. But if you take a pause, take a step back, learn something new, then, how easy is our life now? Our index.js is so clean. Nothing ugly over here. If a new developer joins our company, they can clearly see that these are all the initial routes. They are getting handled by the user router. What is happening inside the user router? Okay, a new router is being created where we have 3 endpoints that this user has created. So any request that comes to /API/v1/user/purchases will get handled over here. Cool. Same for the courses endpoint. In the future, you might have, not in the future, in like 20 minutes, we will introduce a third router here, the admin router. Isn't this cleaner? Kya theek hai, admin ka sara code we will write in a separate file. Rather than shoving everything in a single file, isn't this much cleaner? Having, very well structured endpoints like this. Can we do a poll? Do we understand what is supposed to happen, what we're supposed to do? We're also done with point number 3 over here. And point number 4 is doing the same thing for the admin. Okay, 91% is good. Great, let's proceed a little bit more. Add routes for the admins. Given this starting point, how difficult is it to add the skeletons for the admin endpoint? Sabse pehle, introduce a new route handler here, /admin. Then create routes /admin.js. What did I do? Any request that comes to /admin needs to get handled by this admin router. What will I do over here? Const router equal to require express. Const admin router equal to router. And then we will, have the same endpoints. What are the endpoints that are needed? The same as the user, right? A sign up endpoint, a sign in endpoint, a few more actually. So at least these 2 I will copy from here because I know admin will also have to sign up and sign in. And then one endpoint to maybe create a course, an endpoint that the admin can call to create a course. Now here, you can do multiple things. You can either be like, yaar, main to yahan dalunga. I will put the admin course creation logic here. Or you can be like, I will put it here. I would personally put it here so that I can have a lot of restrictions on this file. On this file, I can be like here, admin router.use admin middleware. What I can do is, this file is protected by this admin middleware. This admin middleware will make sure that the user is logged in. Of course, not for the sign up and the sign in endpoint, but any endpoint that comes afterwards. So that is the benefit of, structuring your application separately. All endpoints that are restricted to an admin, I am putting in this specific file. This is how the admin can create a course. The admin should also be allowed to change the course. What if they want to change the name of the course or the price of the course or the image of the course? And then post, put, and maybe get. The admin should also be able to get all of their courses, let's say in bulk, which basically means give me all the courses that I have created. Cool. This is a brief of, the endpoints that we need right now. Might change in the future, I don't know. But I think for now, these much endpoints are good enough. What are you supposed to do next? Module.exports equal to admin router. Export it from here. What do you do then? Import it in index.js. And then just post it over here. Is that good enough? Was that easy? Creating the skeleton was easy, right? That always is. Of course, we have to now write the real logic. That will be a little hard. So let me quickly commit this. Hopefully this was straightforward and nothing. Great. Let's move on to the next one, guys. What is the next thing after this? Yeah, we should skip this step for later. Let's do the difficult thing first. Let's add the database logic. Can you design the schema for this? Ignore everything else. Really, the big challenge next is designing the schema. What would the database look like? This is actually the first thing you should do. Before you write any code, you should design the schema of your application. I don't have an answer either. It really depends on how many features we need. If we need basic set of features, it will be a very easy schema. If we need extremely complex features, it will be slightly harder schema. So let's try to start to define the schema for users, jahan pe we will store user information, admins, where we will store admins information, course, where we will store all the courses that have been created, purchases, where we will store all the purchases that users have made. So admin will put entries in the courses table. Users will put entries in the purchases table as they buy the course. So let's design the schema, then we will go from there. I think after, if you're able to design the schema, everything else is just implementation. Oh, come on. There we go. I have pushed the code to GitHub. Can we start to design the schema? What is the application? What are we building? A course selling application. User and admin endpoints should be straightforward. We have a users table, or in MongoDB it is called a collection. So a users collection. What all will we store over here? We will store the user's ID. By default, MongoDB already stores it, if you remember from last week. An ID, which is of what type? Is it a string? No, it is a object ID. In MongoDB, all IDs that are provided by default, even when you create one, it should be of type object ID. What is an object ID? It is almost like a string. It is like a UUID, if you have heard of a UUID or a GUID. It's a unique type of a string which has, let's say 10 characters, has some specific characters you can put in there, is highly randomized. So if you automatically create an object ID, the probability, the thing that has come will come again is very low. What is an object ID? It is a very long string, and if you generate a default object ID, or if you've heard of what a GUID is, if I go to GUID generator online, you will see when you generate a random GUID, it is so long and so random. So it is very hard if you generate another one, it will be the same as the old one. So similarly, object IDs are highly randomized. So there's a very low probability of two random object IDs being the same. That is the first thing that will be stored here. What else? Maybe email. This will be a string only. What else? Password. This will be a string only. What else? First name, let's say. Last name, that is good enough. We don't need more information from the user. Ideally, you need the address, because in a course selling website, when you're selling a course, you need to know which state the user is in. GST, which things depend on it. But let's say we ignore addresses for now. What would the admins table look like? Very similar, right? We can pretty much copy the schema over here. I'm calling it an admin. I should ideally be calling it, a course creator or something like that. Anyone who can come and create a course. We are going to call them admin for now, but they aren't really admins. They are people who can create a course on the website. What is the third database that we will have? What will the schema look like for the third collection? It will be the course collection. Can you guess what the schema would look like? As I said, I did not prepare for this, so I am also thinking out loud. No right or wrong answer, but what all do you need in a course? You definitely need the title of the course. Let's say full stack course. You need the description. In this course, Harkirat is going to teach you live, yada yada. The price, which is a number. And what else? Image URL. So this is something someone asked. Harkirat, would you store the image as such in the database? You can. You can actually convert images into base64. It will become a very long string. Shove it in the database. You shouldn't though. you should store the image URL. What is an image URL? For example, if this is an image for my course, let's say I want to teach cats something, then this is the bad example. Copy image address, bad example again. This is the data converted in base 64. So if you want, if you look at this string, it is not a URL, it is base 64 encoded image. So you can shove it like this in the database. You shouldn't though. You should find a publicly available URL. Hopefully this one is, yeah, something like this, images.pexels.com/photos/kittycat.jpg. Something like this you should store in the database. You should not store the raw image data in the database. Your database will just become overwhelmed, or just not bad idea to do that. All right, for like 100 reasons. Cool. Course is done. What is the last one? Purchases. Am I missing something in courses, by the way? One very important thing I'm missing. It is the creator ID. Who is the creator of this specific course, which will be of type object ID. The creator of a course would be someone from this admins table. So that is why the creator ID over here points to this admin table, or is an object ID, which will represent a row in this admins table. And lastly, purchases should be straightforward. A default ID for this and a course ID. What course was bought? Let's say this will also be an object ID. And what user bought it? That will also be an object ID. So this will be what's called a mapping table. What does a mapping table mean? It means that it doesn't store course ka full information here. It doesn't store user ka full information here. This points to the course table. And this points to user ID will point to what? The users table. Okay, this user bought this course. Is the schema enough? It sort of is. There are more things you should add. Specifically, one thing we have missed is the course content. Course के अंदर जो videos हैं. So ideally there should be another table here called course content. I'm not going to add it to keep things simple, but there should be a table called course content. What would this course content table have? It will have that this specific course has first video 1, then video 2, then PDF 3, then Notion doc 4, all of these things. So we're not complicating the schema for now, keeping it simple. But ideally there should be some course content, right? When you buy a course, you need to see some data in there. So that should be the next thing. Do we understand this much? Can we do a poll? Is the schema clear? Schema is clear. So can we write the schema? Can we use Mongoose to create the schema like we have until now? Do you want me to write it, or guys should write it yourself, right? That's how you learn, or whatever, you'll become more comfortable. Sounds so like a teacher. So create a db.js file, and here can you describe the schemas? They're already over here on the screen. These are the schemas that we have to create. I'm sure you guys can barely see them. So let me just try to structure this a little bit better. Hopefully that is visible. This is the schema that we have to design. Can you write the Mongoose file for this? We did it last week. So if you remember, we created schemas, we created models. Can you create the schemas and models? Can you write that much code? This is the standard cycle of any full stack app. You would write the route handlers, or at least just define it in a doc, maybe create skeletons for it, define the schema, create the schema for it, and then it's just connecting everything together, right? Maybe one difficult thing that's left is writing the middlewares. But other than that, that is all the backend of a simple CRUD application is. This is what, is a simple CRUD application. So let's finish this quickly. I'll give you guys 3 minutes. And then I will, write it myself as well. I'm looking at Q&A until then. How can I add a build script if my Node.js server doesn't have a build script. One, you don't need a build script here. It is JavaScript code. JavaScript doesn't have a build script step. If you're writing React code, then you have to build it to HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. If you're writing TypeScript code, you have to build it to JavaScript. If you're writing C++ code, you build it to a binary. JavaScript runs like this, right? So there is usually no build step in a JavaScript file. But if you want, in package.json, you can introduce a build step in the script section. But what will this build step do? I mean, sometimes you take all the files and put all the JavaScript code in a single file. That is one thing you can do. There is this project called ESBuild that will let you do it. Browserify or Uglify. There are like various things that you can do in the build step of a JavaScript project to put all of your file into all of your code into a single file, create a single, not binary but still a JavaScript file, but very long JavaScript file. But rarely have I seen it being done in JavaScript projects. Please add the skeletons of the schema. Okay, that's actually a good point. Const schema equal to require mongoose. And const user schema equal to schema, and figure out the rest yourself. So user schema and admin schema and course schema and purchase schema. So this is the skeleton, and then at the end we will create models from it. So const user model equal to mongoose.model give it whatever user comma user schema. I'm sure I'm missing something in the syntax. I don't write mongoose code or MongoDB code usually, but I think it's somewhere along this lines. Could be right as well, I don't know. Admin schema, course schema, and purchase schema. There you go. This is the skeleton. The only thing that's left is filling in the actual data. Answering more questions. Great question. Someone asked, why are we creating two separate databases or collections for admins and users? Why not do it in the same place and have an entry called, a field over here called type or role, a field over here called role, which is either user or admin, something like this. This is also fairly common. This is just one route I choose always because I'm a little finicky. There are some downsides in this approach, which is, you will have multiple entries with the same email, same what if there is a user that wants to be a user also, admin also? I guess that problem is in the other case as well. There is no downside in this approach. Your approach is also, I think the challenges that are in this approach will come in the other approach as well, which is you have separate tables. It's just, so one thing that, bothers me a lot is in a users table, there are two entries with the same email, which will happen if you have, a user who's a user also and an admin also. So just to avoid that, I always try to keep them separate. There are 10 different reasons I can give you to do that as well, but I'm sure there are downsides in this approach as well. Okay, you don't have two emails in the same database, you have them in two different collections. So yeah, both approaches are fine. In fact, this approach gives you more flexibility. Okay, there could be a user role, admin role, super admin role, things like these. What if there's a super admin who can edit all courses? Those we'll have to create a third table. So I get it. You're not wrong, and that this approach is also pretty good. Please explain include and select in Mongoose. We might reach them today when we reach references. If not today, tomorrow, we'll understand what include and select let you do. Very similar to selects in SQLs. What is the fourth schema you wrote? Purchase schema. This is a user that will purchase some courses. When I purchase course number 1, that entry will be made over here. Okay, Harkirat has purchased a specific course. So this is the purchase schema. need a little knowledge about API. What, how, why? Oh, you have to go back to Express ka video. Why are we not using Node-1? No reason. We can use Node-1. Node-1 is something that will keep watching your code, and you don't have to restart your code. If you want to use it, read about it, use it. Instead of making two separate collections, okay, answer that. How can we delete the to-do from database at its object ID is too much long to know for the user? Great question. Someone asked, okay, the object IDs are so big. How will the user delete a to-do? The thing is, when the user will be on a to-do, when the user will be on your website, okay, todoapp.com /to-dos/ that very long string, the user is already on this page. This ID will somewhere be on the front end. So user will just click on the delete button, but you have access to that ID. So user, when you click on it, when I go to linkedin.com and let's say I've done a post in the past. Let's say this is a post right here and I want to delete it. Let's say this was my post. So I clicked on these three icons, then I clicked on delete. So ID of this could be very random, very long, whatever, but it is somewhere in this JavaScript. That ID, just like Anmol Agarwal name is here, sub name is here, 5 hours ago is here, somewhere ID is also there. It is not visible on the screen, but it's somewhere in the JavaScript. So when I click on delete, when I click on delete, that ID sort of goes to the backend. Cool. Okay, what is API v1 in this thing? It is just, so someone answered yours. Thanks, Someshwar. And if you're free, Someshwar, do you want to do this full time? Answer questions, you're doing pretty well. I'm looking for someone who can handle these questions. So yes, as /API/v1, if yes, just message on 100x Devs Twitter. /API/v1 is just a convention. If there is an application as big as LinkedIn, तो पहले they will create a version 1 of their application. Version 1 में these are our routes. And they would want कि version 1 वही रहे. Version 1 still stays, वो भी चल रहा है. Meanwhile, we will start working on version 2 of our application, जहाँ पे हम कुछ बहुत तगड़ा कर रहे हैं. We have better schemas, we have more optimal backend, whatever. So they will keep working on this while the original routes are intact. They are not touching any of this. They are not changing existing routes. They are creating a V2 of their routes. Whenever they are ready, front end pay, I repeat, on the front end of, let's say, LinkedIn or whatever, they will start to hit the V2 endpoint. And then let's say they start working on the V3 endpoint. So that is, just one way to structure backends, because backends change very quickly. And it is one reason or one thing for your, existing version of routes to have a bug that you fix or features that you add. But it is a totally different thing for you to keep improving your backends completely in a version 2, in a version 3. So this just lets you structure that better. V1 means version 1, V2 means version 2. All right. Hopefully you guys were able to do it. Let me quickly finish it as well. Let's try to finish the whole application today. I think we will be able to do it. What should the ID be over here? Or, ID that will come by default. What were the other things? I'm just going to blindly copy the things that we wrote over here. So email, which is string, and password, which is string, and if we want, we can add constraints here as well. Okay, email is type string and unique true. Syntax could be wrong. Let me know if that's the case. But I think this will let you enforce some schema and make sure 2 entries with the same email don't reach the MongoDB database. Password string, first name string, last name string, and we are not going with the role approach. This is good enough. And can we do the same thing in admin schema? Exactly the same thing in admin schema. Course schema, title string, description string, price, number, image URL string, creator ID, object ID, which comes from Mongoose only, I think. mongoose dot types dot object id. I think that's the right one. Yeah, I could be wrong, but I think this is right. Object ID comes from mongoose.types.object ID. Schema comes from mongoose.schema. I could be wrong. We will see if there is a bug. We'll fix it, but I think this is right. All right. And lastly, purchase is schema is going to be this user, which is again an object ID, bought this course, which is again an object ID. This course ID refers to this course schema. This user ID refers to this user schema. Now, one feature of Mongo we are not using right now is references. If you remember last week, that was the last slide. We still haven't covered that, so I am not introducing that here. If you already know it, if you want to Google a bit, you can also add references over here. That will help you a little bit down the line when we come to it. When we come to it, we can also understand references. Then either way is fine. But this is not the best schema. It is very close. But this user ID and this course ID, you can add something called references. This user ID refers to the user schema. This course ID refers to the course schema. That will make your life a little bit easier. But let's not go there, Abhi. Hopefully the schema is right. And admin schema is what needs to come here. Course schema is what needs to come here. Purchase schema is what needs to come here. Decent. Last thing is export the user model and admin model and course model and purchases model. Export the 4 models from here. And that's how you design your schema. This is a very basic schema, as I said. A users table, admins table, courses table, and purchases table. Creating the corresponding models for it, exporting it from here. This is a very basic schema. As your application gets more complex, this will change as time goes by. Cool. Is this right though? I don't know. This comes from memory. This could be wrong. So let's quickly try to run it and see. What is the one thing I have not done yet? Mongoose.connect. Whenever you want to create a connection to a MongoDB database, you have to call mongoose.connect. You have to pass in a MongoDB URL over here. Now, in README, you will find something. Use .env to store the connection database string. Try to figure out what this is, why this is good. We will also discuss it maybe tomorrow or even today if we get the time. But this is a better way to do what I'm doing next. What am I doing next? Yahan pe, I'm calling mongoose.connect and pasting my MongoDB URL. Harkirat, how can I start MongoDB? There are various ways. You can start it locally if you want. We're not going there. We got a cloud MongoDB URL if you remember in the last class. So I'm just going to use that cloud MongoDB URL of me that I have. Eventually when we reach Docker, we'll also understand a very easy way to start MongoDB locally. What is happening here in mongoose.connect? I have to give the connection URL over here. So let me go to Google Chrome. Let me go to mongodb.com and get myself a free MongoDB URL or whatever, MongoDB cluster from where I'm going to, put data in here. So sign in. If you want, you can do the same. You can quickly get yourself a free MongoDB, cluster you probably already have from last week. As you can see, this is my cluster. It already has 530 kilobytes of data in it. How do I connect to it? Click on connect. Select how do you connect to it. There are various ways. Compass, if you remember last week, we understood is a GUI like this. What is MongoDB Compass? The thing that is mentioned over here. It is a GUI, a graphical user interface. When I open MongoDB Compass locally, let's wait for it to open. Taking a long time. There we go. This just lets you connect to your database, see the data inside it. It's like a MySQL GUI or Prisma Studio or PG admin for Postgres. Every application or every database has some GUI to visualize your data. So I'm just going to connect it using Compass. So I click on Compass. What does it say? it says कि this is how you can connect to it. So the way to connect to it is by copying over this cluster URL of mine, pasting it over here. Again, we discussed all of this last week, and putting in a password over here. Now, I don't remember my password as always. I always forget my MongoDB passwords. So I'm just going to select a different cluster from last week. I can also reset my password from here if I want. I can go to database access and reset password for the 100x steps user. The URL is clearly saying this is the 100x steps user. Uska password kya hai? Give me the password for it, which I don't remember. So I'm just going to pick a database from last week. I think this is right. Let me just copy this connection string as well, so I have it handy. Let me try to connect to it. And when I connect to this database, let's see what happens. It might not be alive. MongoDB like deletes or purges databases from time to time, the free ones. And since we are using a free one, there's a high probability this one is not alive anymore. Let's see. Yeah, it's taking a long time. Let's try another one. Oh, I already have one 100x steps wala. So let's see. Oh, I already had that 100x steps URL. This is the password for it, which is something you shouldn't share with the world like I am right now. And this is my database. I can visualize it on the left. As you can see, there are a bunch of to-do applications that people created last week. Everyone was using my database. Not everyone, like let's say 10 people were. So that is why you see a different bunch of collections that people created, or a bunch of databases that people created last week. Here I want to introduce my new application, my Coursera application, where I will put some data. So I can explicitly put a database over here, or if I go back to my MongoDB application and write mongoose.connect this connection URL, it will automatically create that database for me, whatever name I write at the end of it. If I write /Coursera-app, then /Coursera, then this /Coursera-app database will be created automatically. There will be a database over here that will automatically get generated. I can also create it manually if I want. Either is fine. Let's see if it works. Let's see if when I connect here, does it create a Coursera-app database in the MongoDB database? Can you tell if this will work if I run it right now? What is the one thing that is missing? I have declared this db.js file. I have not imported it anywhere. ये जो file है db.js, it is like any other random a.txt file where there is some data. I defined this file, but I never imported this file in index.js. I never imported this file in route/admin.js. So this file will never run. This line of code will never run, which is why even if I run the application right now, mongoose.connect will never get called. The db.js file is not yet imported anywhere. So let me quickly import it in a few places. Otherwise, this will not work. The db.js file will never get called only. This line of code will never run. So whatever schemas I'm exporting from here, user model, admin model, let me import them. In admin.js, what would I need? I would at least need this admin model where I will store all the user information or admin information. So can I write const admin model equal to require /db? That is good enough. Now that I have one file imported, and this file is imported in index.js. So, eventually, at least when I run this file gets imported, and this file imports the admin model. So, this file gets imported. This mongoose.connect line runs. I can also put a log over here, console.log connected to Mongo. This is slightly incorrect. This is an asynchronous call mongoose.connect. I should actually be awaiting it. I am assuming that the connection to the database happened. We should fix this. This is not exactly correct, the thing that I've done right now. All right, let's run node index.js. And already we have a bunch of bugs. What does it say? Second argument to model should be a pojo or a string. A pojo. Takes me back to Java days. What should be the second argument be? Of course, they use an any. I think it's an object or something like this. Okay, schema. Let's see. Model in Mongoose. Schema. No, that looks right. Mongoose.model, name of the model and the schema. Oh, it needs to be new Mongoose schema. That's my bad. Schema is a class, is it? Yeah, it is a class, and hence we need to initialize an object of that class. That's my bad. Let's try it now. What have I changed? The only thing I've changed is created an object of the schema class rather than just calling schema. If I run node index.js, still we see an error. Let's see who has the answer already in Q&A. I'm sure some of you do, and I'm sure it's super frustrating if you know the answer and I don't, and you paste it. I don't know. Schema.what? Schema.object ID. Lowercase m. In mongoose.model m is. Oh, is that it? Okay, that might be it. Thank you, folks. I appreciate it. Yeah, that was it. Thank you. The log also came that said connected to. So this line of code actually ran. Let's see, did my MongoDB database update? If I refresh the MongoDB database, can you see Coursera app over here? Coursera app was introduced. Admins courses purchases users. So let me push the code in. I would urge you guys to try it out locally as well. Hopefully some of you coded it yourself. But let me add a next step to our code for today. Git add dot commit. This is going to be step 6. Added the schema. What are the things that we should fix here? There are 2 callouts I'm going to do that are bad and we should fix. Callout number 1. If mongoose.connect fails or takes, let's say, 20 seconds, then our application will not have a database connection yet be running. We have an index.js file that will start to listen on port 3000, but our database might not be ready. I am not awaiting this mongoose.connect call. I should wait for this first. Ideally, I should do something like this. I'm giving away the answer here, but it would have been nice for you to figure it out yourself, which is you require mongoose at the top. Before you do app.listen, you first await on mongoose.connect. Only if this happens should you start to listen on port 3000. Mongoose.connect will fail. And if it fails, your backend shouldn't start. What will your backend do after starting if it is not connected to the database? So create a main function at the top of your file, which should be an async function. Call that main function. This will ensure कि पहले तो mongoose.connect succeeds. We actually connect to it. And if there is an error over here, your application will crash. Let's try that out. If I run node index.js, let me put a log here. Console.log listening on port 3000. If I run this, wait for it. Took some time to connect to the MongoDB database, and then finally listening on port 3000. But if I connect to another URL, a random password, which should fail. This is not the right password anymore. So this should fail. When I run node index.js, what happens? It fails. As you can see, backend doesn't even start. This is good. If you are not able to connect to the database, you should not be starting to listen your backend. Your backend should tell, "Kya I am down, bhai, something is wrong." Your developer should come fix it, and then you should proceed. If you don't await on this, or if you put it in the other place, then your backend will keep on running. Your users will keep on sending you requests. Those requests will not reach the database. Hopefully this is easy. The other call out I did was storing the string over here is bad. So use something called .env to put your environment variables in a separate file. That you should figure out yourself. Okay. What is the next step? Did I push it? Step 7. Only start if database is up. Hopefully that is also simple to understand. This is done. The next step is creating the middlewares. Is that easy enough, guys? Have we done this many times now? Okay, we will have a user's middleware and admin middleware, and their goal is to extract the token from the cookie or a header and then forward the request or stop the request. We've done this 2-3 times. So can you quickly create 2 middleware files? Should take less than 2 minutes. After this is done, then though it's just writing the actual logic for the website. So 2 more minutes. Can you try to write the middlewares? Let's also do a poll. Does everyone understand everything until this point? And let me also look at Q&A. %85%. It dropped a bit. So I'm looking at Q&A for the 16%. Push the code fast to keep up. Oh, sorry about that. Someone created an advanced course selling website already. Let's see. Sir, one question. How MongoDB no object ID is referring to course ID or purchase ID, etc.? It doesn't. Right now it doesn't. If I put an entry over here, MongoDB doesn't know. I have not yet used references. So right now MongoDB does not know कि object ID is referring to the things over there. Code not push. Sorry about that. Hopefully it is now. Yeah, I think it should be now. Let me know if that's not the case. So for you, whoever is hosting on Render, why do you have a backend in your application if you're just hosting a resume for recruiters? Just have a pure front-end application, right? And host it on Vercel. Can't redeclare blocked scoped variables. Where did I do that? Env as an environment, dev environment production. No, that is something else. String can be stored in based in. No. That is something else. What you're talking about is something else. What I am talking about is a environment file. Very common concept. Any code base that you go to, will always have a top level .env.example file. If you go to this code base, you will find a .env.example, .env.test file. So this file is usually where you store all of your secrets. For example, database URL over here is stored like this. So similarly, this database URL should not be stored over here. It should be stored in a .env file. That is what I was talking about. Recap. All right, time to recap everything. I'm sure some people are confused by this as well. Why did I add a main function? I'll explain. Let's look at the steps for today. Initialize a new Node.js project. Hopefully that was simple. npm init. Add a few dependencies. Hopefully that was simple. Create index.js. Creating an empty file is always simple. When we were creating the routes for admins, for users, and for courses, what did we do? We did some very basic routing. We changed index.js. I am not going to put all of my routes over here. If I have 10 routes, I am not putting them all over here. I'm going to structure them in various files. So user routes are present over here. Course routes are present over here. Admin routes are present over here. That is how I have structured my application. Given this structure of the application, I was able to write my user routes over here. Anytime the user wants to sign up, this route handler will get called. Sign in, purchases. Course router. Anytime a user wants to see all their purchases, or if they want to create a new purchase, if they want to buy a course, they will hit this endpoint. If they want to preview a course, if they want to see what all courses exist right now. Preview ka matlab hai you just see all of the currently available courses that you have not bought, let's say. That will be handled by this endpoint. And then there is an admin router where admins or creators of the course can sign up, sign in, create a new course, update an existing course, and get all the existing courses they have created by hitting this /bulk endpoint. There is actually a small bug here. Okay, this should not be admin router.post/course. It should be admin router.post/ because we have already written the prefix in index.js. Index.js में already mentioned है कि anytime a request comes to /API/v1/course, it should be handled by this guy. तो यहाँ पे I don't have to rewrite course. फिर 2 बार कोर्स हो जाएगा. Then the expected output endpoint would be /API/v1/course/course. If I put /course over here, then prefix maybe there is a course. यहाँ पे भी there is a course, which is why I just put / over here. Okay, I don't want anything extra. Anytime a request comes to /API/v1/course, this guy will handle it. Put request comes to the same endpoint, this guy will handle it. A request comes to /API/v1/course/bulk, this guy will handle it. Straightforward, hopefully. Then the last thing I did was add the database logic. Okay, I have created my routes. I have imported those routes over here. The next thing is, how can I create the database schema? So here is where I have introduced user schema, admin schema, course schema, and purchase schema. What all courses have the user purchased? The easy ones here are user schema and admin schema because they don't have any references. Course schema has one reference. What does reference mean? कि यार course schema is में जो creator ID field है that refers to an entry over here. यहाँ पे अगर कोई entry होगी, if there is an entry over here with ID let's say 1 2 3, then there will be a course over here with the same ID over here. You cannot have an ID over here, a creator ID over here that doesn't already exist in admin schema. अगर कोई admin exist करता है वो ही बना सकता है course. You can't have a random ID over here. That is the first reference we are using for today. Even though we haven't yet used references, hopefully we get the idea that this guy is referring to this guy. Same for purchase schema. Purchase schema is going to be user ID is going to point to the users table, course ID is going to point to the course table. Hopefully that's simple enough. Create the models for it, export them from here. That is it. Haven't written any real business logic yet. What do I mean when I say business logic? I mean yahan. What happens when the user signs up? You get their body, whatever, username, email equal to rec.body.username. You get their password. You do a whatever, admin model dot create. That is how you put the entry in the database, things like these. That we haven't done yet, but that is simple enough, right? If I flip on AI right now, it will do it in a second. So writing the business logic is easy. Writing the schema is hard. Structuring your application is hard. Writing the business logic, you will write it 2-3 times. 4th time, it will become like muscle memory to you. That is a recap of what we have done until now. What is left is writing the middlewares and writing the actual routes for our application. So I'm trying to make sure we're able to finish middlewares today. Even though middleware should probably come afterwards, we should first write the routes, but either is fine. We should proceed a little bit more before we call it for today. Hopefully this class wasn't too overwhelming. We have only created a db.js file where we have defined our schemas, index.js file, which as you can see is really small, just stitches all the routes together, and 3 route files, all of which have respective routes right now, only skeletal routes. What do I mean when I say skeletal routes? No data inside them. Here is where we have to write the business logic. Now, would you like to write this yourself? 2 things are left. Writing the business logic, writing the middlewares. Can you try it out? I'm looking at Q&A until then. Can you try writing both of these things? Maybe start with the middlewares. I will upload today's recording before tomorrow's class, at least on harkira.classics.co.in. There you will 100% find it. You might not find it on app.nexus.com. So, just go to the other one. How to get the Mongoose URL? Yes. So for getting the Mongoose URL, go to mongodb.com, sign up over there. Once you sign up, it will ask you to create a cluster. Create a cluster. Make sure you're creating a free one. And in my project over here, now I see one cluster. This is my cluster. What does a cluster mean? It means a bunch of machines that are, storing my data, or where I send a request to create data, update data, things like these. That is my MongoDB cluster. When I click on connect, click on compass, is where I get this URL from. Now the problem is you might not remember your database URL. So please go to database access and change the password over here. Click on edit and just, edit the password or reset the password. Click on save at the end. And one more thing that might be problematic is you don't have network access. So make sure in network access, you have a rule like this for now. Eventually don't have this rule, but abhi ke liye just add this rule. Add IP address, and the ID to add over here is 0.0.0.0/0. Sorry, the IP or subnet more specifically to add over here is 0.0.0.0/0. That will open up your database to the world, which is a bad thing, but for now it's fine. How do you move that fast in VS Code? I think I just used 2-3 shortcuts that people get too impressed with. The one that you guys just saw was this. Okay, when you double click on something, let's say .post, and I press Command D, both of them get selected, and then I can delete and press .get. So this really is the other only extra thing that I use in VS Code. Other than that, you get a flow and then you just muscle memory after that. How to send you a Notion doc like Joab? Just put it on chat. If you are not one, like 90% as good as Joab, there are companies. Also depends on your compensation range, but like if 1 lakh a month is what you're looking for, then sure, yeah, easy connect. Please do offline video on Mongoose, specifically CRUD methods. We have a very good one from last cohort. Let me post that. Deep mein jati. It gives you like very real world examples. So yeah, Akash, remind me. There's an offline video from last. It is an offline video in cohort 2 as well. So I'll just put it there. Command Shift L does it in one click. What does Command Shift L do? Oh wow, fucking hey. See, you learn something new every day. Command D selects them one by one. For example, if I select this Command D, I got slowly went there, and someone said Command L, oopsie daisy, sorry, Command Shift L will select all of them together, and then you can go there. So yeah, see, you learn something new every day. Can you give some open source repo that we can understand by all the knowledge until now? Yes. So thankfully, I don't know if that is still the case, but P5JS web editor ka backend is the same stack that we are talking about, which is if you open their repository, overwhelming, sir. But you don't have to worry about everything. You don't have to worry about infrastructure. How are they deploying their code? You don't have to worry about client, their React code. You don't have to worry about translations. How are they translating it to various languages? Server is what you have to worry about. Open their server folder. This is where their backend code is. Can you see a server.js file? Is this looking thoda chalo recognizable? They have imported Express at the top. They imported with a capital E. Doesn't matter. You can name it anything. When you do a default import, I can import it like this. I can import it like this. I can import it like Harkirat Express. Doesn't matter. You can import the top level variable. Depends on you. If I can write let a equal to 1 hai, so I can write let b equal to a, or I can write let b equal to a. Bad example I gave, but just because they've imported it as a capital E doesn't mean it is any different from what we have done. Also, they use a different syntax for importing. We use the require syntax. Now they have a lot of libraries here. They have a library called Mongoose, so we understand. Body parser, hopefully you remember. They have a cookie parser library, which hopefully, you don't understand, I'm sure, but can you guess what it does? Cookies, some authentication related logic, probably it does. Course, we have understood. Express session, again, is used for cookie based authentication. The thing that we have learned is token based authentication. What these guys use is cookie based authentication. If I teach cookie based authentication, then this should be, all of these imports would also make sense to you. Passport, which is an authentication library, and this lets you do very basic authentication on this authentication library. What do I mean by basic authentication? I mean username and password, and not log in with Google, log in with Facebook. Passport lets you do log in with Google, also log in with Facebook also. But this basic auth, express basic auth, lets you do basic auth that includes simple username, password, cookie based auth. All right, wow, they have a lot of things. They have, one second. Imported a bunch of Webpack config over here. I don't know why. Probably for dev and prod mode. And later, let's see what this is used. You have no idea why they've introduced this. We can dive deeper into it if needed. Then, can you see they are importing some routes from here, some routes from here, some routes from here, some routes from here. Their application does something else. It's like Replit. So it lets you create projects. All the project routes are over here. Can you see where this import is used eventually? If I go to projects, can you see app.use/editor? Then they add another middleware over here that most probably checks whether or not this request has JSON body or not. We can dive deeper into what this middleware is. And then projects. Did we write similar logic today? What did we write? In index.js, what did we write? App.use, any request that comes here, go to this specific route. What have they written? App.use, any request that comes to /editor, please go over here. Any request that comes to, yeah, so what this does is, as you can see, it's /editor all across. So what this does is if none of the handlers over here handle a request, it will go to the next one. I repeat, app.use/editor users means कि यार पहली जो request आएगी /editors पे, go to the users handler. But if this guy is not able to handle it, then go to the sessions handler, so on and so forth. That is why they have the same prefix for all of them. It's actually a very weird way to write code, but chalo theek hai. Let's look at their users endpoint really quickly, or their users routes really quickly. Where does the users routes come from? ./routes/user.routes. Now they have named it users.routes. We name it users.js. Really depends on you. So ./routes/user.routes.js. There you go. So यहाँ पे what has he said? Whenever the user wants to sign up, user controller.create user. They have written all the logic to handle requests in a separate file called a controller. So let's go to the user controller, ./controller/user/controller. Server controller user.controller. What is the create user function over here doing? Does it look familiarish? Parsing email username and password. Converting the email into lowercase. Checking, does this user already exists? If the user already exists, then letting the user know your username is already taken or your email is already taken. So this will check does the user exist with a certain username and password, or with certain username or email? Is this email already existing in the database? Is this username already existing in the database? You can also search to the code base on this function and figure out where this function is defined. How does it check that? If there's a user already existing, you let the user know that either username is already in use or email is already in use. And then you generate a token with some specific expiry, let's say 24 hours. Only 24 hours that this token is valid. And then you store the data user entry in the database. This is another way to store data in Mongoose. You can call user.create, or you can create a MongoDB object like this and call user.save. And this rec.login is how they are doing authentication. They are not sending back a token. They are putting it in in the cookie. And if you look at it here, they're also sending an email to the user. They're making sure that user will most probably verify. As you can see, mail options equal to render email confirmation, body, domain, host, link to body. Kya hai? Domain is this thing. Yeah, we'll have to read through this function, but this function will most probably take these two inputs, the current domain, jahan pe the user will finally, what happens when you get a verification email? When you sign up, you get a verification email, right? Us verification email mein kya aata hai? Ke please verify, click, if you signed up, please click on this button to verify. So this is it is calling a function called render email confirmation. What does this mean? Ke HTML, what will this function do? It will most probably create a very long HTML. Yeah. So what I was saying was, can you see iska error to Hindi mein aa raha hai? But this error is in English. So they probably don't have the translations for this string in Hindi. That's a very easy fix. Don't do that. That's like not a bug. It's just they don't have the translation for this string in Hindi. But that is why the message is coming from the backend, because in the backend they're even though it looks like it's in the front end that they're storing this, all these dynamic strings, if you have a multi-language website, they come from the backend. Anyways, what was the bug? The bug was K request बहुत ज़्यादा जा रही है backend में. Is it fixable? Very simply fixable. But let's first explore this endpoint. कौन से endpoint पर request भेज रहा है? It is sending a request to /editor/signup/duplicate check. Can we reach its route handler? Let's see. If I go here to their code base, if I go to server, where will I start from? I will start from server.js. I will see कहाँ है वो request that is going to, what was it? Network tab /editor/signup/duplicate. So if you remember a while back, we saw all the editor all of these were handled by /editor only. तो मुझे एक एक करके जाना पड़ेगा. But hopefully this users router is what has the sign up endpoint, right? Or what has the sign up logic. So let me open this user route. Where is it present? It comes from ./routes/user.routes. So if I go to ./routes/user.routes.js, तो यहाँ पे can I see this handler for it? I can. Can I see what function handles it? Duplicate user check. So can I go to the user controller? This is just a way to structure your application. Probably good. There's a whole pattern, MVC, view model controller, sort of an architecture. This probably has that, but it doesn't make too much sense these days because front ends and back ends are very decoupled. So MVC में V doesn't make sense. But the controller over here basically means the thing that is handling your logic. It's just sort of a pattern. So you can define the function here as well. What have they done? They have defined a user controller. जहाँ पे they have defined the duplicate search user function. So can I search for it here? I can. Or can I just go to user controller /controller/user.controller? Yes, I can. Can I search for duplicate user? Yes. What is happening here? Const check type equal to rec.query.check_type. Let's see what query parameters did I send. I sent username equal to this and check type equal to username. Check type का मतलब है कि please check is this a duplicate username. The same endpoint handles email as well. When I put an email over here, that is also handled by the same endpoint, which is why I in the query parameters check किया username है जो मुझे check करना है. So if I go here, wow, they might have a bug. Check type value is rec.query value options equal to, that's fine, user.find one by username or email. You will have to look at what this function does, but they might have a bug. Actually might बच गए. They might not have a bug. So here is the problem. You should never take what you are searching on from this the user. What I can do is यहाँ पे मैं डाल दूंगा कोई तीसरी field. Not I will put password over here. कि check type equal to password. And they will start to check their database कि किस के पास ये password है और किसी के पास ये password तो वो लौटा देंगे. समझ रहे हो? तो और city let's say or country let's say. तो basically they should have Zod over here to make sure कि user ने यही दो चीज़ें भेजी हैं. User isn't sending you something like password or something like Thankfully I think they will be fine because this function is only for checking. Let's look at this function very soon and see what it does. But here this basically checks whether or not this username or email exists. If it does, then it returns this thing. Simple, straightforward, nothing too complicated I would assume. But let's see, do they have a bug? Or is this exploitable? Let's see where this find email user function is defined. It is defined over here. And this is one way. In one more thing you can do in Mongoose is जो भी तुम्हारा schema होता है ना, उस पे you can add functions like this. User schema.statics.find user by email. So that, as you saw on the other place, we were using it directly. We were not calling user.find one. They are not calling user.find. They're calling user.find by email or username. This is a custom function they have defined on top of this guy. Where have they defined it? They're defined in some file. Question is, what is happening inside this function? Is email is options.email. If argument, यहाँ पे तो it is checking whether or not the input that the user has given you is an email. If arguments like this too, and type of option is object, and option is sensitive, query equal to is email value or so ठीक है, they will be fine actually. If I pass some custom field over here, let's say password or something, यहाँ पे they are checking कि यार I am going to check on either email or username. They have a ternary operator over here. If they did not have this, if they simply whatever I gave them over here, password, city, country, whatever, they send that query directly to the database, then I can sort of send custom queries to the database. That can become a problem, but they'll be fine. ऐसा कुछ नहीं है. ठीक है. So this function, what does it do? It probably just checks await user.find one query. It basically finds one user where email is this value, and if there is a user, then you return the user. Duplicate, else you don't. Simple. What is the bug that we can fix? So you need to know React to be able to fix that. That's a front end bug, which is they're not debouncing here. They should debounce. Feel free to pick it up. They have been coming to GSOC for 11 years. 2 years they missed, 2014 or 2015 when I was applying, 2016 1 year, and last year. So 2 साल से only in the last 11 years they haven't come twice. So they usually come from time to time. They also have, if you're a good contributor there, they were recently hiring something. I'm in their, never mind. You get the idea. Good organization to apply or be a part of. Cool. So do we understand the backend a little bit? Of course, they have 10 different things here, since this is a, let me sign up here and show you, but how have they done login with GitHub, login with Google is also one great thing to learn. We haven't yet learned about Passport.js. We probably won't either, but because we'll just use Nextauth, which gives you the same thing in Next.js. But if you want to do authentication using Google, using Facebook in Node.js, then you use Passport. In fact, our chess repository is the only one in which we're not using Next. We are actually using React plus server. So here also we have used this thing only. If you look at the backend over here, yeah, I think this does not have an Express backend. It does, but it also has a WebSocket backend. So, but if you look at it, our chess repository, does it look similar? Import Express at the top. V1 routes are over here. app.use/v1, all the v1 routes will be handled by the v1 router. All the authentication routes will be handled by the auth router. There's a typo over here. Don't fix the typo, I'm just telling you. And this also uses Passport.js for authentication. So as you can see, I'm using Passport over here. When you have a Node.js backend where you have to introduce authentication with Google or authentication with Facebook, then you use Passport. When you have a Next.js backend, you use Nextauth. Most of our repositories use Nextauth, so we don't teach it. If you want, I can take a class on it. But this repository, since we wanted to build it in React plus Node, it uses Passport for authentication. Cool. I think that's enough. Let me know. Yeah, I can do this all day. This repository is very simple only. It has a lot of issues also. If someone wants to target the front end issue, what do you have to do? You have to find. Now don't do it. Don't spam them, please. But I'm just saying, or just check. If someone has done it, then you don't do it. I don't want to see 20 pull requests here solving the same thing tomorrow, right? So please, if you are doing it, just make sure कि किसी और ने तो नहीं कर दिया है. And if someone else has solved it, then don't solve it. What was the issue? The issue was there is no debouncing over here. So what do you have to find? You have to find where does this exist? This login page exists in React. So for the people who know React, this client probably is where their React code is. There is a routes.jsx which will have their React routes. /signup is on this signup view component. We will be learning all of this, so don't worry about it. Get overwhelmed. I'm just for people who know it. This is their signup view component. Modules, user, pages, signup view. So modules, user, pages, signup view, and here they have the title. They have a h2. They have a signup form. This signup form component, which is /component/signup form. If you look at this, can you see the duplicate check happening over here? There's a function called async validate, which takes either username as input or email as input. Question is validate username. Where is it getting called? It is getting called over here. Field validate equal to validate username. So where do you have to add debouncing? Over here. Right over here in this validate username function. What will you do? You will add debouncing over here. What does debouncing mean? Okay, you will check when was this function called last. It was called in the last 10 seconds. If it was not called in the last, you will check when was this function called last. And if it is, no, you will not check that. When this function gets called, you will start a clock, something like this, which will actually call this function. Yeah, something like this would happen basically. I'm just putting out the code, you should clean it up and do it. You will do something like this. Okay. Debouncing is hard to explain, especially, because this isn't a class on debouncing. You get the idea. I'll write the code and then I'll try to explain it a little bit, but hopefully it should be easy to understand. This is the ugly way to do it. Okay, you have a timeout variable over here, timeout equal to this thing. And what you will do over here is, and for the beginner people, don't even worry about this. This was just an extra, experiment that we did at the end of the class. So here you will clear timeout. Then you will call this. Clear timeout will happen here. This is how debouncing happens. What have I done over here? I have said that जब ये function call होगा ना, ये function तो बहुत ज़्यादा often call होने वाला है. This function is going to get called anytime I type something here. I type something, function gets called. So too many requests are going out. So what we'll do is, when the user types this, we will still call this function immediately. But this function does not call async validate immediately. ये async validate function है ना, that is actually sending the backend request. We say, I am not calling this immediately. I will wait for 100 milliseconds. I will call this after 100 milliseconds. तो अगर मैंने, what this code will do is, if I type this, after 100 milliseconds, I send out a backend request. That is what this code does. But this single line of code at the top, what this will do is, if there was any active timer, अगर मैंने A टाइप किया, एक टाइमर स्टार्ट हो गया, And then immediately if I typed B, what will happen is the old timer will get cleared. And then the new timer will start. Ab main after 100 milliseconds, I will send this backend request. But if I immediately type something after that in less than 100 milliseconds, then again the old clock will get cleared. So you are just deferring the backend request. You are deferring the backend request. Dheere dheere karke. Eventually, if you don't type anything for 100 milliseconds, then this function will actually get called. So if you write this much logic, even though this is very ugly, an ugly way to write it because timeout is like a variable over here, you can fix it very quickly. Or, in React, you can find a library that gives you, the use debounce, or React probably provides it. No. So you'll have to bring in a library that, provides you a use debounce hook. You can use that as well. Or, you can write it from scratch like this. Did you guys understand this logic? And if you don't, that's fine. I just want to know how many of you were able to understand the debouncing logic. This should fix this problem over here. What is the problem? Okay, too many backend requests are going out, even though they shouldn't. You should, just like Amazon and Google, as people type, only when the last type happened and no activity happened after 100 milliseconds, should you send a backend request. Let's do a quick poll. Great. Most people understand. Simple enough. All right. What do you want to do next? Keep exploring like this. Like there's no end to, if you want to learn something from this repository, one thing that you will learn and never forget would be how they are doing login with Google. So, I'll take a video on it. I don't mind, explaining passport. We haven't done it in any other cohort, but good thing to learn. But try to learn that yourself. How does login with GitHub, login with Google happen? It will teach you two things. One, auth, and two, these guys use cookies most probably. 99% they will use cookies for authentication. So, how does cookie work? Until now, we've done a very naive approach of auth, which is local storage, which is also not bad. But there are better approaches that you should go for. All right. Any more questions? I'm going to look at chat one more time, then we'll call it. And I will upload the video almost immediately on harkira.classics.co.in, and the other one you guys can just look at later on. All right. Let's see. Pause. Tomorrow we'll finish the whole thing, front end and back end. Razor Pay successful integration and custom domain coming shortly. Oh, very nice. Let's see. Shreyansh Gujar. Oh, nice. Oh, I think I've seen this before. Ye to purani hai na? This isn't new, I think. I've seen this before. Cool. What is auth O and OAuth? They're different things. Auth O is a company, just like Clerk is a company you might have heard of, or Google is a company you have heard of. I say auth O is a company. They just played on OAuth. OAuth is a protocol. OAuth is a protocol that lets you connect to Google, Facebook, whatever. Auth O एक company बना दी उन्होंने. They kept a very similar name because they also do authentication only. This keyboard is a lot of people are asking this. This is a standard Keychron Q3, I think. I most probably. It is the most expensive Keychron available in India. I think it's Q3 only. But yeah, I got selected for an internship. This company is giving an interview, but my parents are a little skeptical. They think it might be a scam. It says in the parents statement they're asking to sign an NDA. It's more marketing and sales company. I don't know. It's very hard to tell. Let's see. It looks decent only. I don't see anything weird here. Just sign an NDA. DA पढ़ लेना भाई मतलब बस वो है कि make sure they can pay you. Ask them कि पहले यार every 2 weeks I want to get paid or something like that. So how can they screw you? The only way they can screw you is not pay you, right? So just decrease that time. Looks legit only, and the founder's photo is on their LinkedIn profile. So if they don't pay you, then shame them or whatever. What is tomorrow? Don't lag behind. Complete the whole thing by tomorrow, right? So yeah, complete the whole thing before tomorrow, and then you won't lag behind. All right, a bunch of Notion docs. Let me share my screen. I'm not right now. This is the founder that he was talking about. I wasn't stalking anyone. That looked so wrong. All right. Explain the saga of gaining Hakirat's follow. Bhaiya, last week एक feature किया था Reddit में. Let's see. What is it? Oh, looks fancy. What is it again? Hold on. Watch later को तुम वो कर सकते हो, आगे पीछे कर सकते हो. ये है क्या? Not bad. I mean, ठीक है. Yeah, probably something that should be merged. Like nothing bad in here or anything. Yeah, like it's not very hype that it's one of those features. ठीक है, good to have that. Sometimes the feature comes like wow, that was needed, and this is not that, but still pretty good, and probably made you enough comfortable with the code base. Now you can do a lot of things. Okay, the code is right. I'm asking you after TAs and debugging the whole day and cross checking. All right. The error is coming from the partial sign and send transaction only. Let's see. I don't see any code over here. What happened? Refresh. How to remember concepts fast? Get a job that they're working, you making a work ekdam on the bone. तो ऐसा होता है कि you write so much code, you get comfortable, or do it yourself. The problem is yourself में motivation नहीं आती लोगों को. But if you get a lot of motivation to build projects on your own, that is also cool. Build them in various stacks. The only way to learn faster is this someone's portfolio? That's also pretty good, man. Let's see. Dribble clone and Amazon clone. Wow, I thought I had opened Amazon for a second. That's pretty cool. Let's see. Yeah, I mean, clear red flags here. This is coming out. So, like decent hair. Have some backends, buttons are. It's fine. I'm just finding flaws now. Decent. I can't say like super impressed also, but like decent. Yeah, I mean, I don't know what's up here. Why is this moving? So yeah, oh wow, that's like a little too much. Cool. This is done. Oh, what about OTP functionality? Okay, the code is right. I'm asking to string. Most probably, where is your code? Why is your code not loading? The error is clearly telling you use strings somewhere you should have used. Let me paste your code here. Where is your token launchpad component? Oh, there you go. Copy. Let's see. Keep it or generate get exemption main transaction is transaction.add from pub key new account pub key. पहले तो ये चेक करना यार यहाँ पे typo now. Last time this happened. Seems like that is not the case. Create Minto instruction. Recent block hash. Fee pair. Wallet is correct. Partial sign. Oh, you should await this. Oh, maybe not actually. Let's see. Partial sign. Yeah, never mind. You shouldn't await it. Key pair. That looks right. So I see you've put up logs. Which one of these was failing? You said both are failing or something. Yeah, Notion is really messed up. Looks right basically to me. What can be wrong over here? Wallet keeper.public key. The error is clearly telling that you are using a string somewhere where you should use like a keeper object or a public key object. Wallet.send transaction. You're sending the transaction object connection is also fine. I don't see anything wrong here. Something weird is going to come out. From pub key ki jagah, you should have been from capital KEY, something like this, like that other guy the other day. So I'm now trying to find that if you've missed some typo. How can I run this quickly locally? Let's see. Open recent. This should be it. Let's go to token launchpad. Let's paste your code over here. Okay, let's see. cd1-token launchpad nd. Everything looks right to me. Wallet is connected. Click on create token. Open the console. I see an error. It is not happening in the signature call. It's happening before only. Even if I comment this out, it's happening in the partial sign call for sure. If I comment this out, I think, the error will remain the same. Create token. Let's see. Let me put a breakpoint over here. So partial sign, I think that is what is giving you an error. Can I read property of undefined reading to string? Something very basic it's going to be. Let's see. Account metas dot for each Okay, wait. There you go. Compile message, account manager, empty instructions dot for each. There you go. Let's put a breakpoint here. Create token. Your transaction object that is created has some bug. Yeah, let's see what that is. Instructions dot for each, account metas dot push. Where was the error again? Yeah, so let's let that happen, and then accounts meta. How can I get this variable now? देखो issue तो पक्का यहाँ है. One of your transactions are wrong. Let me comment this second transaction. Let's refresh. Let's try to create a token. Now let me remove these. Create a token. Partial sign. Okay. So here itself there is a problem. Space mint size. That is right. Lampports. That is right. Yeah, it's going to be something so obvious. Create token. Console. System program. Dot program ID. Create token. Now, oh. Abe. From pub key wallet dot public key. Yeah, I'm going to log this object. Why do I have a strong feeling something is wrong in these inputs that you're sending? Create token console. Let's look at the log. From pub key is public key, lampports is fine. New account public key is public key, program ID is public key, space is 82. No, that looks right. That looks right. Let's see if someone knows in Q&A. Anyone know what's up here? Something very simple it is. Oh, yeah, Sumit. Akash, can you keep adding all these GitHub links in Discord so it'll be easy? When will tomorrow's Web3 class be uploaded? When tomorrow happens, I'll try to upload it by tonight. I mean, I'm sure you mean yesterday. New transaction. Where is this coming from? No, that looks right as well. Lowercase k from pub key. That is fine. I don't think that's the problem. Or is it? Params. It is lowercase only. New account pub key. हाँ वैसे है तो यही. From pub key. There you go. Uppercase k in. This is very bad. You should like not do this. Like very simple, right? You had capital K over here. Someone else figured it out? Yeah, then you're all missing the same thing. The way to debug this is go to the add function definition. It will tell you kiska type is, create account definition. It will tell you this is the type. Go over here and, copy the keys from here. Did I have the wrong keys in a slide somewhere? Why is this is the second time this has happened? Okay, and then copy the strings from here. New account pub key, new account pub key. Now it will work. You had a capital K over here in pub key. All right. Second time this is happening. Seems like some people found it as well. Great. Cool. वेब डेव में Web3 क्या सर? अरे ठीक है, क्या हो गया? Yeah, TypeScript जिंदाबाद. So yeah. All right, Notion docs. Few more Notion docs, then we'll call it. I have a project I want to deploy on the cloud hosting like Vercel Netlify. Please tell me the process. Can you make a video deploy on Node.js process? Yes, you should go to. I have a video on YouTube that covers 9 different ways to deploy a project. You should go there. It'll cover everything. Looking at a few Notion docs. Notion is acting up right now, so I can't. They're just not opening. I have an issue on armorheritage.com website. When I try to access the ML course, it redirects me back to heritage.class.co website. I have purchased cohort 2, which should, yes. on Harkira.class. So those courses we can't upload them on our platform. So, just go to your course. For example, you said you have the 0 to 100 course. Go to 0 to 100 cohort, you'll find, all the ML videos over here. You can't watch them on app.headextra.com. You have to watch them over here. That's the only thing. Yeah. So I understand. So this is like the most common problem. And this is something we need to get out of. This is what is called tutorial hell. And it is difficult for everyone, but practice is the only thing that will help you out. We learned something today, right? Can you try to code it yourself? Let's do a poll. Not a lot of people right now, but one more poll. How many of you are stuck in the same boat? Sir, I understand everything you teach, but I can't write code or build on my own. I can't write any type of logic. So my own. How many of you are stuck in the same boat? Are you stuck in the boat? Yes or no? Itna jada? You are stuck in the same boat. 70%. That's huge. 70%. I thought it'll be like 10% or something. Yeah, we all need to practice a lot. I need to increase the assignments then, and that's it. I think course content matters much less. It's anyways available everywhere. You guys coding a lot of assignments is what will push you out. This was a clear answer. This is nothing. Stop following tutorials. Start coding yourself. It's always a vicious cycle of, I don't know how to code, so I follow along coding. Then I don't have the motivation. I also don't have a job, so no one's forcing me to do it, so I don't do it. Then I follow another tutorial. So, put yourself into uncomfortable positions by getting a job where you don't understand the stack, PHP or, Laravel. So, that will, put you in a situation where, you can, you will learn. The only way to learn is by writing a lot of code. And, sometimes you don't understand the code that you're writing. Slowly, you start to understand and, write it. That would be my 2 cents on this. And that's really bad if 70% people are stuck here, because, this is really the difference between, I'm not saying good engineer or bad engineer. I'm not even saying, but getting a job or not getting a job. But if you're in this 70%, I thought it'll be very hard to get a job, right? Because, interviewer will be able to pick up like this. Eventually there's an interviewer who is going to interview you. Most of these guys make you write code unless you have some really good code on GitHub. So you can't chat GPT then or open Harkirat's video, right? You have to code it yourself. So it's not too difficult. Whatever I did today, exploring a code base. If you write a lot of Express projects, then, it becomes very easy to do. All right. Bhaiya, no, so I want to contribute to business projects and finding remote jobs. Could you help me for this? Pretty inactionable question. Yeah. What do you think, sir? What do you think? All right. What's up with the UI over here? The portfolio itself is a little messed up. And then this is even worse. And, don't even get me started on whether or not this runs it the right way or not. I think your backend is down. I could be wrong. But long story short, no, the UI, fix the UI. I know it's a bad thing. I know this is a very complex project, but if you build the UI also, if you build such a complex thing, how hard is it to build? You keep asking this a lot. This is like the 10th time you've asked this. You told you would Google it along with us. Hex.com, right? Not heart hex. Hex.com. This one, right? Hex averages 38% returns a year. 4%. Okay, what is this? Let's see. My new coins with 38% APY. CDs, also known as certificate of deposit or time deposits, are worth trillions of dollars. CDs are worth more than gold. What are CDs? Is it like that government issued bond or something? I could be wrong. Companies and cash. CD pay higher interest rate than saving account, require money to be deposited for a fixed time. Okay, is it like an FD? Is CD the FD of the US? Bank profits on poor consumer service, early withdrawal fees, and auto renewal at the worst rates. In Hex, you are the bank. The more you learn about it, the more you will love it. Hex primary design intention is to the price appreciates that overperforms as much as fast as possible. The idea was to create a cryptocurrency that appreciates faster than Ethereum, whose price is made at 10,000x in 2.5 years. Hex currently has 10,000x in under 2 years, and that's done before mining. BTC went up 10x from 650 in the same time frame. ETH did a 30x. Hex outperforms every other. No, that's true for every token. When a new token is launched, of course, it will outperform everything initially. Bruh, what do you do? अब इसमें कुछ आएगा अजीब सा.
To gain the highest ROI in Hex lies in a little known mechanism called shares. When you stake your Hex, you receive shares. It's kind of like a guarantee. Your shares guarantee you back your principal, plus a percentage of interest and bonuses over time. The key to achieving the highest ROI in Hex is acquiring as many shares as you possibly.
This sounds very scammy, if I'm being honest. What's the... Yeah, this is really bad. They have like no volume. Don't stay away. Yeah, I wouldn't put my money here. Just because you get a very hefty APY, it isn't always a good thing. They might be printing a lot of these tokens. So, you know, if someone is... You are getting 38% Hex every year. But the price of Hex might also go down, right? So, you get the idea. And, you know, this is very low volume for any token for you to trade. You know, if you make some substantial money, you won't be able to cash out. The price will drop. If I have 200k of Hex tokens, if I try to sell, the market will crash. So don't, stay away is my current thesis. I could be wrong. And what claims were they making? Dude, you can make these claims. So this is one of those tokens which has low float, high FTP. Do you know what this is? It may not have a low float, but it has very low volume. And what does self-reported circulating supply mean? Maybe this is not audited and, you know, they can print more tokens. I don't know. But long story short, you know, it might have outperformed ETH, whatever, during a bull or whatever. But yeah, as you can see, you know, TK did back then, but now it's back to very close. So yeah, that pitch just goes away. And a lot of tokens outperform ETH when they're BTC or ETH when they're, you know, just launching. That's not always a good thing. Or, you know, not something substantial. When a new token will start, it'll start from zero. So of course it'll outperform ETH and BTC for some while. Cool. Long class. I will see you guys tomorrow. Please, if you want to be prepared, just make sure, you know, you are, few more Notion docs I'll look at. Please, make sure you are doing what? You are, try the assignments from today. You know, the things that are left, you try to build them yourself. All right, I'll look at 5 more Notion docs and we'll call it. Open them up. Let me share screen as well. Yeah, Notion is just not working today. Sir, I added OTP functionality. What does that mean? You send out a message? Oh, all right. Let's see. Sign up. Sign up. Sign up. OTP sent. Check your email. Let's see. Sorry, I sent out a lot of emails from your thingy. Yeah, I received an email. My phone buzzed. Cool. How did you do it? SES. What is that company? New startup. Sorry guys, my Notion is down today. I don't know if we did it, but they're all loading. How did you do emails? So there are like various ways to do emails. Cheapest one is probably simple email service by AWS. A lot of startups built around it. So I was just curious. Let me open chat. Sorry, no Notion docs are opening right now, so we will call it either way. But yeah, and also opening chat just out of curiosity. What did you use for email? SendGrade, something else. Oh, I can't see, too many questions. How can I change password functionality? How do you think? Pretty simple, right? Add a new endpoint that lets the user change the password. One thing that you should do is get the user's old password when you're doing this. So we used SMTP, simple SMTP credentials from some mail provider. Or did you host your own SMTP server? If you did, let me know. It's something I'm curious to learn. Hi, Harkirat. Super 30,000 10th October. Is there any discount for us who already bought cohort 3? Unfortunately, no. PG is 9K a month, I think. That is not included in the course price. That's separate. Looking at any textual questions, all Notion docs are not working. I have Java background, learning JS and Web3 from here. According to you, what should I explore, Java or JS for orgs? For GSOC, I mean, if you're good at Java, then double down on Java. There's no point for you to... there will be more organizations in JS and Python, but I'm sure there are Java orgs you can find. If you have more experience, there are probably, no downside in applying there as well. It will take you a few months to learn JavaScript first, right? Cool. All right. So guys, we'll call it. I will see you guys tomorrow. I will push the video in the next 2 hours or so. You should find it on harkira.classes.corotin, ab.100xs.com. It might take some time. Cool. Have a good night, folks. I'll see you guys tomorrow.